which basically says that the people that will survive are the ones that have the highest genetic predisposition for survival, or a hierarchy, or they're more robust and so on. See, that system inevitably devolves into looking at humanity in three ways. One is the superhuman, called the Übermensch. The other is human, and the other is subhuman. Now, it sounds like a fairy tale, right? Except that if you go back 80 years ago, this philosophy led to the global war and death of over 200 million people. So it's not a fairy tale. And what do I mean? The Nazis believed that the Aryan race was descendant of Nordic gods, and they used to call themselves Übermenschen, superhumans. They believed that the Anglo-Saxons, the Europeans, basically, Western Europeans, were human and were meant to be subjugated and enslaved to serve the superhumans. And the subhumans, the Jews, the Gypsies, the Slavs, the handicapped, and those that politically didn't agree with the Nazis, were subhuman and were meant to be turned into vapor, dust, by being burnt or buried alive and murdered. 40 of them were my family. So this way of looking at humanity exists, and it didn't go away after World War II. It just went to sleep. It's resurfaced now, but it's not anti-Semitic, to be honest. It's a completely different way of delineating who is superhuman and who is not. There's a group of people that really believe in their own superiority, that believe that they have a higher level of consciousness, that they've evolved to a state of enlightenment that enables them to dictate to others or to the world how many people should be in the world, how long you should live, and other details. For example, in 2015, Bill Gates, in a TED lecture, so going back to, so Bill Gates makes an announcement that the world population needs to be reduced. He has his calculations and global warming, whatever his calculations are. So let me ask you a question. What kind of human being feels that he has the right to make a statement like that? Well, a sociopath. And someone who feels that he is God or godlike. And this is nothing new under the sun. The history is filled with these types of despots and tyrants that had delusions of grandeur and felt that it was their prerogative to enslave others. Then if you look in 2016, there's a guy named Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum. He gave an interview in French, and he said that within 10 years, everyone will be tagged with a digital identifier. Again, it's a matter of record. So what entitles a person to make that type of statement? And then if you look at the agenda of these people, which has now become the 2030 plan for the UN, they say some very interesting things. One is America will no longer be a superpower. Number two, this is my favorite, you will own nothing and you will be happy. What kind of person feels entitled to dictate such a policy? You will own nothing, you will be happy. Because they will own everything. And everyone else will be equally miserable or dead. Or another one is you won't eat meat except on special occasions. I mean, the type of detail of micromanagement of our lives to take away our free choice that they're planning actively, and these are policies set into motion already, is not a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy. It's not a theory because it's happening. It is true. And all you need to do, listen, it's not a theory if you didn't do your due diligence and didn't look into the facts. Okay? It's out there. The information is there. There is a conspiracy. There's a conspiracy to restructure. There's a book written by Klaus Schwab called COVID-19, The Great Reset. That term, Great Reset, has become a favorite term of political leaders. There's an active attempt to reset the way humanity lives. And let me tell you what they're trying to reset: your freedom and your life. So in that context, if you look, basically we're dealing with Stalin with weapons of mass destruction. Now, one of the tactics to control human behavior is the use of fear. Fear is a ubiquitous, universal phenomenon in the human experience. It serves a protective function. You know, you get a sense of fight or flight, and it's meant to be protective. But it could be used in a way to manipulate behavior. So if I release an unknown, invisible enemy, pump the airways with "it's going to kill you and your family" rhetoric, suppress any rays of hope, and advocate for the use of an experimental, unknown, and definitely unsafe liquid, it is very easy to steal the consciousness of humanity away from the divine and lead them to essentially idol worship. In other words, I begin to allow my fear to guide my behavior, which is to find a human source for the alleviation of that fear. So who could that be? Well, it could be your government officials, or "we're here to protect you, we're here to help you." It goes on, let's say, YouTube, and offers an opinion. And because that opinion is not in line with the World Health Organization's principles, that's what they say, that it's against the standards of the World Health Organization, that's why it was taken off, he gets deplatformed. So that's another element. You take into context, you know, you would think that living in a democratic free society, you'd have the right to debate the utility of things. So some doctors may say they believe in this, or this is why. Other doctors may not. They have a debate. The debate could last for years. But eventually you reach a deeper level of understanding and truth, which then helps everyone. Now, if you censor and suppress the voice of the opposition, that's no longer freedom. That's no longer a democracy. That what we're living in is in a totalitarian hellhole. And it's hard to believe that this country has devolved into essentially a path of self-destruction within just a few brief years. I come from, I was born in the Ukraine, in Kiev, and I was 4 when I left. I lived in America since then. But you know, I grew up in the culture and in the stories and in the experiences of people that were really abused and suffered and murdered by totalitarian regimes. So I'm sensitive to the impending tyranny.